What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the worst damn gamer ever. So I was having a little virtual sit-down with a couple buddy of ours, Sir Sturdy of Horror with Sir Sturdy, and Dreams, the creator of Red Focus Media, and we started talking about that new Anderson .Paak Bruno Mars song, Leave the Door Open. It turned into a whole nother conversation as well about music greatness. So if you're a fan of music, if you're a fan of funk, if you're a fan of R&B and B and soul, this one's for you. If you're a fan of just the greats and history in music and just the potential of music, this one's for you. I hope you enjoy it. Catch me later. Hit the other link and watch the other video as well from the same conversation about the actual song and the reactions that we had and our feel for it. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Hit the bell. Like, subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.
When I listen to this song and the song's going off, I'm just like, imagine what we could have got if Michael and Prince could have made an album together.
We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah,
we were talking about that the other day. If they had not hated each other, bro.
Yeah, just imagine that sound we could have got. Because, I mean, Michael could sing his ass off. Prince could sing his ass off. I know Michael can dance his ass off. Prince can play any damn instrument in the damn world. That just those two together and just the music they could have created together would have been. I feel like it's one of those things that would have been so good that it would have been hard to top. And there was just it sucks it didn't happen. I feel like there's, besides the fact that they didn't like each other, I think there's just something in the universe. Like, look, if we create this, like, time's gonna freeze. Something crazy's something wild's gonna happen. And again, is because it's one of those things where you want to hear certain musicians, like these two sound perfect together. You want to hear those certain musicians together just to see how great that song would be. Even when it comes to like rap, hip hop, and all that. Like, but this song right here was really good. Again, I have to listen to it again to kind of really get the vibe. And this is also one of those songs, well, for me, so I absorb music better when I'm just like listening to it. Say if I'm driving alone or working, when I'm working and listen to it alone, I kind of, because I can rewind it, I can pause it. Oh, let me hear that verse again. Let me hear that line again 10 times in a row. And kind of just, you know what I mean? But yeah, great song.
Yo, it's funny that you said, it would have been incredible, hearing or seeing, MJ and Prince make a track together. Can you imagine watching a making of video for a song that they collaborated on together, wow, and just them in their creative minds going to create that track? Can you imagine watching that video?
Like fly on the wall to MJ, Prince, and Quincy being in the same room, bro.
Bro, that's something that every single person who has any type of love for music or passion to create would have to watch. Like, that's that would be insane, bro.
That's the triple threat. That's the Trinity right there. You got the master producer, the master musician, the master singer, songwriter, dancer, all working together on something like, oh my God, bro. And then if rest their souls, if they would have been alive to this point, could you imagine the collaboration that they could have been having and doing with artists like this that are relevant right now, like Anderson .Paak, like the Bruno Mars, like The Weeknd, like all of these other mainstream artists, and not even just the mainstream, these people that are up and comers that, we have undeniable access to talent right now with the internet. Just imagine what they would have been finding. Like MJ found her back in the day, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's like, bro, the shit that they could have been doing for this industry.
Can you imagine Prince and her collaborating on a track, bro? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
There wouldn't be a dry eye in the motherfucker, bro. There would not be a dry eye in the building. I'm sorry for cursing, but forget about it. It'd be like the hysteria of Michael Jackson to a concert with everybody crying just to that one song and just everybody trying to embrace each other and love each other in the world because of something. That's the imagery I get from seeing a collab like that come up.
Yeah.
I got a question for you guys. As far as like what you just said, has anybody else made that sort of impact that Michael Jackson has made? As far as, like, I watched, what was it? I think it was the Here and Now documentary or whatever it was. People women passing out in the crowd just because they see him. That is power. Like, I don't care what anybody else says, how people will say, and this is no disrespect to Beyonce or anybody else will say, like, they're up there with MJ. I don't know anybody else who's ever done that, so therefore I feel like MJ's on a level on his own. I feel like Prince is on a level on his own, and I get when someone says you kind of sound like you remind me of, but when you're saying you're better than these people, I feel like it's disrespectful because of what they've done. And yes, they may have gotten their styles or borrowed certain styles, of course, because music goes back far. But they put it to a level where it's like, yo, for example, like when you think of Chris Brown, when you think of Usher, you think of Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? I'm sure I can't think of artists off the top of my head because I'm not
The
as
Weeknd,
familiar.
his sound is very MJ-ish, and he's
I'm not
one of the
as
most relevant artists.
familiar with Prince as I am with MJ. So that's why I'm saying with MJ, even you could even say Bruno Mars with MJ. Like there's certain artists that you can kind of tell they like. I'm not saying that they didn't like Prince. I'm sure they all love Prince, and maybe they have some things from Prince. I just don't know personally. But like I'm sure Beyonce has some styles from Prince and from MJ. Like there's it's just to that point to where like when you think of the greats that you can say consider the greats now, they got this from because of MJ and because of Prince. And you can even go back to, you could say James Brown maybe for that because he's older than them, but still like a lot of people will say, oh, I used to listen to MJ whatever age it was. Like you hear children nowadays, or even when what's the girl's name I can't think of her name. JoJo. Is that her name?
JoJo
I remember,
Siwa? Yeah, JoJo. Mm-hmm.
Well, going from like her, and I can't think of the other childhood singer that came up like around when she was coming up that were like fans of MJ. And some people are like, how are they fans of MJ? They weren't even born when he was there. I'm like, what are you talking about? Music, it's like a movie. You throw it on and you listen to it or you watch it and you get a good vibe. And it's one of those things. Of course, your parents are listening to certain songs at family gatherings, or just because they just have music playing. You get that like locked in your brain. And I don't understand how people can't get around that. Like just, oh, they're only 10 years old. How do they? It's like because this is what they're brought up around. And I really do feel that it's important to show the youth some older music. I appreciate older music way more now than I used to as a kid. Of course, like again, what my parents would play, my aunts and uncles. You didn't want to hear that as a kid, but now when you hear that song, you're just like, oh man, this reminds me of this cookout, da 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 da. That's another dope thing about music. And but going back to this song before we wrap it up, this is one of those songs that I feel would have that same vibe. And this is one of those songs that I feel like would be able to be played at a family gathering back when we were all children in the 90s. Easily, without anybody, like, what is this crap? Like, oh, this is nice. This is a nice vibe. This is a nice, and it's a clean song too. I listen to a song I'm swearing, but it's a clean song where there's no, you got kids running around and stuff. You don't really care if they hear it or not, even if they're talking sexual to an extent where Bruno Mars is pretty much saying, I'll leave the door open for you when you get here. Kids don't know what that means,
right? But
we know what it means. But they're saying it and going back to our parents listening to all these nasty ass songs like Let's Get It On and all that. And I'm saying that to be funny, but I'm saying they're saying it in a way to where it's not, I guess, gross, or where it's not too over the top or too like, I can't think of the word, because I'm gonna say gross vulgar. Like that, but thank you. It's not too vulgar, and it's not like out there. You have to be like, if you know what they're talking about, you know what they're talking about. Like versus certain songs, talk about Smash and all that, you know exactly what they're talking about because it's boom.
Whack anyone?
And that's the thing though, because it's like, they made it that way where it's not so vulgar, but even on the surface of the song, it's still a dope song. Like without knowing, even as a kid, like when we listened to the songs that our parents listened to, we still enjoyed it and thought it was dope just because it sounded good. You know what I mean? We may not have understood it, but I feel like that's also the other part of great artistry, where even if you don't understand what we're talking about, I connected with you. My sound moved you. You know what I'm saying? Regardless if you know what I'm saying or not. You know what I mean? So that's again, this song is definitely going to be one of those songs it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be able to stand the test of time for sure.
I do. That's now I'm
literally what I was about to say.
I do want to say this because you said the test of time. What is there any artists out right now, as far as like a little newer artists, whatever, that are out right now that you think people will be listening to within the next, let's say 20? And I'm at because I know for
you just looked at the two in my book.
Okay.
Like Bruno, I already said he was going to last the test of time because his sound is so timeless that he reaches into the bag from the 60s. He reaches into the bag from the 50s. He reaches into the bag from the 70s and 80s. And then he's got the stuff that reminisce that, he did finesse with Cardi to bring out the 90s and his memories and shit like that and pay homage to that. He has generations covered with his sound that when they hear it, they may not even know it's Bruno Mars or that, who the artist's name is, but they'll still vibe out to the music. They'll still feel it and understand like the frequency of it and how they're moving to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Bruno hit legend status already.
Yeah,
like he's already legend. I think her would definitely be an artist that people will listen to.
Kendrick might be one. Kendrick Lamar might be one that's kind of lasts a while because of how powerful his messages are. Childish Gambino might be another one. Drake, just because of popularity, might make it. And like Aaron said, with his older stuff, I feel like that stuff is a little bit better quality-wise and relevance-wise to the story he's telling versus this newer stuff. But those are the three big rappers that right now I can kind of say, if anything, these are going to be among the tops that people can reflect back to easily later on.
Okay. I mean, I'm not crazy about Childish Gambino.
I'm not either. And
I'm not taking nothing away from him. He's cool. But like I'll definitely probably throw in a Drake project for a Childish Gambino project. So I mean, I could definitely see Drake. Drake's definitely done big numbers, big moves. I could definitely see him having an impact. But when you think hip hop, what I'm saying, that artists who's going to stand the test of time, you name people like Pac, Big, like their names are always still mentioned.
Right, Eminem.
Right. When you talk about a lot of these current artists, I don't think they're going to be in those mentions.
By anybody other than their generation who was listening.
Right. You got cats like Slick Rick. You know what I'm saying? You got cats like Rakim. You know what I mean? Like people, you're not going to sleep on those cats. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these newer artists, like you said, Kendrick, maybe one, but I feel like even for Kendrick, like I couldn't compare him to like the craziness like Pac has done or Big.
Yeah. No, I get it.
You know what I mean? So we're talking about that kind of pinnacle. I want to say like any rappers are at that pinnacle right now. Like you could say Bruno Mars, is hitting the pinnacle benchmarks like you've seen from like Michael. And I mean, I'm not saying he's on, I'm not saying he's MJ, but he's in his respective lane. You feel me? Like, so I guess that's where I was going with that.
A lot of hip hop heads will probably leave. Well, they won't leave, but I'm sure they'll throw his name in the hat. R.I.P. for Nipsey. You know what I'm saying? Because he had a bunch of shit that it wasn't exactly the biggest. He wasn't the biggest entity within hip hop, but he was doing so many other things, and he was actually still out there trying to help his community and stuff, that he got so much respect for all of that I feel like that's going to be one of them things that everybody, especially from the West Coast, will always reference, will always talk about.
Yeah, because I mean, I'll definitely sit here and say like I wasn't someone who knew of Nipsey before his passing. Gotcha. You got so many cats out here be like, oh my God, Nipsey, not Nipsey. I'm like, I never heard of him. Tell me about him. And then when I learned about the impact that he did have, in the community, I was like, okay, yeah, hip hop took an L today. When I heard about his loss, but yeah, I totally feel you with that. When it comes to like Nipsey being mentioned, just for the fact of the impact that he's had. When it comes to, hip hop culture and, people within hip hop for sure.
The last little thing I got to add in, just because of the comment Sir Sturdy made earlier, as far as, has there ever been any other musical entities to make that type of an impact, to have that effect on people where, people are passing out and all that shit? The only ones that come to mind are the Beatles, Elton John, Justin Bieber, And
Not the babes, not the babes.
and I don't know if it's happened or not for Bruno yet, but I feel like Bruno definitely could have been one of those people that just made people go absolutely bonkers on day of show.
I can see that. But as far like just what you know what it is that resonates with the MJ thing, besides the fact that we're all fans, is when you watch that documentary or whatever it was that it was this is it tour,
Yeah.
and you see these people.
Yo, I went
like,
and bought an Epson guitar. I'm sorry, I said an Epson. I went and bought a Les Paul Epiphone guitar just because of that movie, just so y'all understand the impact that boy has. You feel me? I went and found a white and gold, Les Paul Gibson guitar just because that chick who was playing guitar in that movie, man, I told my wife, who was my girlfriend at that time, I was like, look,
I would leave you.
Wow.
And it wasn't because she was bad. It was just because she was. It's such something. Female musicians, they're just beautiful to me. You know what I mean? Like, and the way she was playing that guitar, I was like,
"Oh, you got the magic fingers, okay?
Okay,
you got them tickle fingers.
You over there fiddling on those strings. Better go ahead and fiddle." But nah, yeah, that just goes to show that movie, you know what I'm saying, just eat, and I mean, it was just like a behind the scenes of putting together a concert, and it had that big of an impact. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about artists who can do that today. There's not a lot of them.
I don't think any of them can. I can 100% say I don't think any artist can do that nowadays because you got a few reasons. One, they're so easy to access nowadays to where you don't have that mysterious. Even though some aren't on social media as much, but it's still easier to access these artists before, back in the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, you weren't really accessing them like you can now. Like, you can add them on IG, you can add them on Twitter, for example. And now it's like we couldn't with Michael Jackson. We couldn't with these other artists. And again, even the bigger names that aren't on it as much, they're still on it even a little bit.
That's interesting that you said that, though, because when you think about a lot of like marketing stuff that companies put together for artists, they're all about connecting with fan base. So do you think like this whole entire new way of music with that whole entire connecting with fan base actually there was a positive but also kind of created that burden or that element of like you said, that mystery that pretty much like artists like MJ or Prince was able to have?
Yes, because if you take in artists like Sia, who kept her face covered for years and didn't do none of that and wouldn't go out to public events or anything, she wanted to maintain her regular life, which is why she did that. But everybody sought her out because it's like, yo, who the hell is under the veil? Who's under the veil? That voice is amazing. I got to see this person. I want to know this person. And then she finally, comes off more and she shows up more in interviews as herself and stuff. And then now it's like, all right, she's still there, but when was the last time you even heard anything about Sia? That shit all went away because everybody's just following now instead of talking about it. Instead of wondering and getting conversations and drawing their own conclusions on shit, now they see it. Now they're drawing conclusions off of just the verbs and just the fucking imagery that they're being fed. So now it's like, oh yeah, did you see Sia's doing blah, 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 blah. Sia had this kid. Sia, that her husband was out on vacation at blah, blah, blah. You don't get that before. You had to go to the newsstand and look at the tabloid.
Yo, this conversation is going to be a gem, I'm telling you.
And that's one thing. I mean, again, it's good and bad. It's good because it's cool as a fan to where you get these access to these people, but it sucks at the same time because sometimes you're seeing too much to where you don't have that mystery anymore. You're just like, oh, it's just so, you know what I mean? Which you know what it is? So I think it's a generational thing. Like, of course, we're all 30 and up. So, and then, so it's like in our era, we didn't have that. So it's like, we're so used to the mystery. We're so used to that versus we're so used to not having access to all that.
But the other side of it too, that kind of sucks about the situation and the evolution that's taken place is it's still a smoke and mirror thing that people don't really recognize or see because they're like, oh, I'm connecting with this person. But at the same time, they got one or two people that are handling their feeds, that are handling their responses, that are handling their posts. You know what I mean? They may be the person in the picture, but that person
Yeah,
behind the camera is framing it. The person who's answering the text message is somebody else who's answering as if, based on her original responses and the way she is. You know what I mean? That she cleared, like, yes, you can say stuff like this, you can say stuff like this. So you still don't exactly have the direct access to them, even though some people will get on their TikToks, like Chris Derulo or Jason Derulo, you know, people that'll be super active on their shit, like Chris Brown, you know, but then at the same time, you still got those people still who got their own people that are just running the show for them, if you feel me.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take with it. So, like, you know, you can't really take everything for what it is, for what it sees, because there's still molding happening to that scenario, to that scene that you're seeing based on this person. So you still don't get it all, which is kind of nice for them, because it still gives them a little bit of seclusion and a little bit of a retreat of their own personal sense. But for the people in the masses that are looking at it, like, a lot of people are like, oh my God, this is so-and-so. They're actually hitting me up. They're responding, blah, blah, blah. When
Which is
in
dope.
actuality, 9 times out of 10, it may not actually be them. You know what I mean? It's someone on their behalf.